put it out with probably one hand line, at least certainly knock it down with one hand line, with one crew, with only a few hundred gallons of water. Now in this case, they ventilate and they're not able to put water on the fire. We're going to watch the fire react, and more importantly, you're going to watch that smoke ignite. That smoke is a secondary fuel package, and we're going to see that once we ventilate, it's all going to light off on that entire second floor. We need to recognize that smoke is also a fuel. It's not just the actual physical solid fuels that are burning in a structure fire, it's those gases. And those gases are contained in the smoke. If the smoke is getting warm, it's starting to light off above you, certainly cool it down with your hand line will improve conditions. You must, and we'll see that in this case as well. So you see that there's fire on the basement level and there's smoke coming out of the second floor. Remember we talked about if it's put water on the flames as soon as possible is the best method of fire suppression. If you put water on the fire from the outside, conditions will improve. Right now this is one hand line, a one crew type of fire with tank water probably. Now as the firefighter arrives on scene, you'll see, I'll show this again, before the hose line is ready, he decides to ventilate. I'm sure what he's thinking is we're going to let the smoke out, let the heat out. There's a lot of heat and smoke on these upper floors because you have all those gases built up. They're all trying to leave the structure. When that happens, when you ventilate, you create a large outlet. When you create a large outlet, you're allowing more air to flow in. Now the same thing would happen if you cut a hole in the roof. What does that do? It creates a bigger outlet. You have more air flowing in through the inlet. You have less resistance through the building. Once you ventilate, does that fire respond instantly? No, it takes several seconds for that fire to react, but conditions certainly get worse. Why? Because instead of letting the heat out, you're letting more air in. The fire responds to the air inside of the structure, conditions begin to get worse. You don't have a big enough opening to allow all those byproducts to come out, so the fire responds. What do we see now? About a minute into the video, you see that smoke ignite. Remember that smoke is a secondary fuel, and rapid horizontal ventilation in this case would be deadly for any crew on the inside. We break out all the windows, we're trying to let the heat out, and in turn we make the fire much worse. This fire is ventilation limited. It started out with one crew, one hand line, went to maybe two crews, two hand lines. Now you have the basement level involved, an entire section of the first floor involved as well. With the intention of letting that heat out, letting the smoke out, now we have a very severe fire. We'll watch it one more time from the very beginning so we can tie all these concepts together. We arrive on scene, one crew, one hand line. We can see that flow path develop. We see an inlet and we see an outlet. Remember, if we keep this house tight, we're going to limit the size of the fire. We want to wait to ventilate until we're ready to put water on that fire. Truly coordinate that ventilation. Is it okay to hit this fire from the outside? Absolutely it is. We've shown through our tests, through UL's systematic evaluation, that conditions get better when you put water on the fire from the inside or from the outside. If we wait to ventilate, that fire will remain in check. Instead, we ventilate without putting water on the fire, with the intention of letting the heat out, with conditions of letting the smoke out to improve visibility. What happens? It doesn't happen instantly. If you just broke one window, it would take longer. Instead, all the windows are broken, so we have more ventilation. That fire responds even quicker. This is that grace period we're talking about. We could still put water in the fire now, and conditions would get better. We don't put any water in the fire responds to the ventilation we give it. Our fuels behave differently than they used to. Now we have what was a small fire to then second floor being almost fully involved. We're talking about more water required, more hand lines, more crews, more resources, and more importantly, in this case we show that the rapid horizontal ventilation would have been fatal for any crew on the inside. You're not improving conditions. There was no oxygen available to that first floor until we ventilated. We had heat and we had fuel.